we have everything set up for the first cut. The first cut is crucial. If the first cut is not correct, the whole log becomes garbage. So a couple of things to remember. First of all, if you swing around here, when we slab a log, we want to kind of slab it parallel with the pith, because if you're cutting into the pith on the one side and out of the pith on the other side, when it comes to drying, it dries all wonky. So if you can kind of stay parallel with the growth rings, it gives you the best results when you're drying. So if we measure where our cut's going to be to the pith here, we're about 19¼ inches. Now because this is a crotch log, it's a little bit difficult to determine where the pith ends on this side. So we're just going with one of the limbs. They're more or less in line. And on this side, we have the pith here at 19�3/8. So that tells us that our cut is going to be pretty parallel with the growth rings. Want to make sure this is nice and sturdy. It's hammered in here. As you can see, these little pegs are hammered in. Then I take additional screws, screw it on nice and tight so that this doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't have to be level. It's more important just to make sure that we're nice and sturdy and that we're going to cut with the growth rings. So now the mill will ride on top of this bar here and cut in underneath. First we'll take the top off. Once we have the top off, our cut should exit around here somewhere. Once we have the top off, we can use the other rail and then we can start slabbing. So again, very important, make sure that first cut is correct because everything happens from there. Okay, we'll get the mill set up next. Okay, let's go. So this is called the Alaskan mill. This is how it works. This is the big one. You get them in much smaller sizes, but basically the concept of this is, as you see, we've tied the rail down at the top of the log now. So this here, under here, slides on top of the rail that we put on, and then there's adjustments here, and basically it gives you your slab thickness on how you what you want to slab. Now because of the size of this, I put the auxiliary oiler on here, which just adds a little bit more oil to the end of the bar, because by the time oil is dispensed out of here, if it gets to this side, it's dry and it just really wrecks your chain, and it takes away from the life of the chain and the bar. So if you take the adjustment mechanism on this, just move it a little closer, let me show you here. You'll see there's increments here on how you adjust the actual slab thickness. Our first cut we're gonna do at 6½ inches, and I'll show you why. Come over this side. If you see here where we have this guy set up, basically that bar is gonna ride on top of this, right? So now we've set our first cut to be 6½ inches from the top of that. So 6½ is gonna take us to there. This is where our cut is gonna start, and we're gonna take the top off here. Now, very important always to make sure that you're checking your screws, that you're not driving in. This is a 4-inch screw, and I drove it in from the top. 3 inches plus an inch down gives me plenty of room for that screw to clear. Same thing with around here. And if you look on this side, at 6½ inches, our cut is gonna exit probably around here, and then that'll give us a nice flat surface to start milling off of. Okay, and make sure this is always flat on top of the bar, okay? And that's the first cut. That's a pretty successful first cut. Now, it was a little on the slow side because when I sharpened the chain, I didn't knock the rakers back any. I was in a little bit of a hurry. So the cut was a little jumpy and it was a little slow because the chips didn't clear like they should have. Nonetheless, it should be okay. This is the exciting part. Now we kind of get to see what is laying underneath. Let's see what we got here. Usually I bring a broom. That's the one thing that Malcolm forgot. Wasn't me. Hey Malcolm, you forget the broom? Okay, look at that. That is beautiful. Like the way that this crotch comes out like this, and then this here, it's just beautiful. Okay, so now the next thing we do is we prep for the first slab cut. And that's where this guy comes in handy, because even though, as you can see, this cut is really flat. I mean, for a chainsaw, that's as good as it gets. But now we want to make sure that all the cuts are this flat, because it gives us less waste when we're working these. So we're going to use this bar. And just to hold it down, we'll have to put something on it. That is why I put the sandpaper on it, so that it gives us grip at least, but just to kind of hold it in place a little bit so it doesn't knock around from the vibration of the saw, I put something on top of it. And then we'll prep for our next cut. Now, because the bar on top is 1 inch thick, we have to account for that. I want 3.5 inch slabs. I like them nice and thick. 3.5 inch slabs, depending on how it dries, because there's so much happening in this log, I'm expecting for it to be some defects during drying. So if I cut it 3.5, I might get 2.5 inch slabs out of it. I might get 3 if I'm lucky. Wouldn't get any more than that. So if I'm cutting them at 3.5 inch thickness, that should be pretty good. So on the mill here, as you can see, it has the increments. Now, if I want 3.5 inch slabs, I have to account for the extra 1 inch bar. So I'm setting it to 4.5 and 4.5. And that'll give us 3.5 inch slabs. Okay, so we're good to go.